Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining my class in this evening session. And would you please, the committee, set me as a co-host so I can share my slide.
Sir, can you share your slide because I already enabled the sharing options.
Okay. Do you have my presentation for yesterday?
Yes, sir. Do you want me to share the screen, sir?
Wait a second. Okay. Wait a second. Okay, I would like to continue my presentation. So I think yesterday we have discussed that there is a new trend on the third sector organization. That is the combination or in the intersection of the public, private, and the voluntary sector. So this is what known as the social enterprise, the organization that has special mission. Their main mission is to solve the social problem, but they use the business approach. And in the social enterprise, there are a lot of issues. One of them is the sustainability of the social enterprise, because the enterprise has the risk of the business failure and also the organization failure. So this is the political sustainability and economic sustainability, the purpose of the market legitimacy and the public legitimacy. The market legitimacy is how the product and the services can be sell to the market, and the public legitimacy is how they can be supported or trusted by the stakeholders. So we argue that to answer this thing is that the social enterprise need to have special governance. And this is why we come up with the village-owned enterprise as one of the example of the social enterprise that widely spread in Indonesia. So village-owned enterprise is the enterprise that established and owned by the village government, partially or wholly, and they can have many businesses, but the ultimate objective is to achieve to increase the economic, to increase the people welfare. People living in the village welfare is not only on the economics, but also in the social environment, and also cultural welfare. Welfare means that people living happily. People living happy if they have the money, if they have the environment that safe and supportive, and they're living in the environment that healthy, and they're living in the culturally fit society. Okay, so this is what is the example why in Yogyakarta is quite I think the most livable cities in Indonesia, because in economics and the the food and the living cost is quite cheap compared to the other cities. The social is very like friendly, and environment is not uh, uh, is uh, is quite safe with the and it's not too hot or too cold, and the cultural is very rich. And the background why the government pushed the establishment of the VOE is the living condition of the villages in majority is not quite good. So when we talk about the poverty rate of the villages in Indonesia is higher than compared to the cities. So how come the village with very rich natural and cultural resources, but they're living quite poor compared to the person that living in the cities? They can grow everything in there, but it's quite hardly also to have a decent life in the villages. So the government thinks that if each villages have enough sufficient fund, and they can use the fund now known as a village fund, 1 billion rupiah per year, so giving directly to their account every year. So if the government thinks that if the uh, if the village can use this fund uh, to build or to establish the village owned enterprise, and they can manage their own resources, hopefully the village welfare can increase. So this is why we need to bring the empirical research on the social entrepreneurship, because social entrepreneurship is the engine of the village owned enterprise. This is not this is quite different with the commercial enterprise. So in the social and social enterprise, there is a need a local leader. There is a need a sociopreneur who can see the opportunity in the village and use the VOE to solve the local problems. So in this framework, the sociopreneurship will grow if there is a support in the economic, political, demographic, social, cultural, and technological context. This is what uh, that might explain why in different village there might be different level of the village on enterprise sustainability. And the general national framework like the the financial market, the market openness, management skills. In Indonesia, the general national framework for entrepreneurship is become more and more better. And the entrepreneurial framework condition, like the government policies, government program. So this is might explain why the Indonesian villages now become more and more developed. The village on enterprise become grow because these three condition is increase the entrepreneurial capability in the village. And the development of the village on enterprise can be explained like this. They start with the conception, the business conception, how they can see the resources, the land, the view, the economic situation, and how can they think creatively to cultivate the things. And in my dissertation, I try to predict whether the village on enterprise will succeed or no. So I use the 8 factors, and I use the spider web to capture whether a village have the balance. As you can see at the right, this is the condition or the picture of the village who has the maturity of the VOE, so they can have the capacity to manage the resources, so they can have the sustainable business. But at the left, the very left, this is the example of the village that do not agree like each other. They cannot cooperate between themselves. So they cannot establish a good and sound village on enterprise. So therefore they will fail to cultivate the potential of the village. So in Indonesia, there are 3 contexts that might explain whether the village on enterprise will succeed or no. One is the regulation. Since the village law or Undang-Undang Desa, there is a strong support from the central government to the advance of the village on enterprise. So when the village has the innovative local leader, they can use this opportunity, because as a mandate by the village law, the village will have 1 billion rupiah per year, and they can use the money to establish and develop the village on enterprise. So the logic is that the village that ready and creative will use the money to build a business that been managed by the VOE or village on enterprise. But I think most of the villages in Indonesia spend the money for infrastructure. Mostly like 85% they use this for infrastructure, or 60% they use for infrastructure, 30% for the salary expenses, and only use like less than 10% to build the village owned enterprise. So I think this is the problem of the lack of the capacity of entrepreneurial skill in the village level. So I think it's there is a need like young people to to help the village to realize their potential through the village-owned enterprise. Second is the cultural aspect. So the spirit of gotong royong, the spirit of working together is really important to be a foundation for a village to create the village-owned enterprise. So when the new regulation, this is the village law, and the village has a capacity to interpret the regulation and to use the opportunity, because there's a regulation, there's a funding. So this is really depends on the interaction of the actors in the village to come up with the consensus, to come up with the collaboration, to work together, so they can use this opportunity to create the collective action, because they cannot like act alone. They need to have the collective action. So it's quite interesting to see the trends like in here. So what I call is the third wave of the social enterprise, because after the reformation, after the village law, there is thousands of social enterprise that rise in Indonesia. So I think I give you an assignment to have a short report on any social enterprise in Indonesia. So because this is not only village-owned enterprise, there are a lot of new initiative, new organization that have a social mission, and they have innovative way to solve the many social problem around us. So after the pandemic, there are a lot of social enterprise also rise, because the crisis makes people work together. So I think if you write on a paper, I see there are a lot of competition out there. I think if you bring this into a paper, I think it will be a quite fresh and interesting ideas, how the social enterprise will help the communities to recover from the COVID pandemic, and they can have a better life. So the third sector, usually we have the foundation and cooperative, but now we have also the social enterprise. Some of them have the limited liability partnership or PT, perseroan terbatas, but they have soul and soul mission to solve the social problem. And the characteristic of the village-owned enterprise is, first is they need to be established through the musyawarah desa and stipulated on the perdes or peraturan desa or village law. One village can only have one village-owned enterprise. This is a voluntary, so the village might or might not establish the village-owned enterprise. So it's quite a good news that Indonesia have 57,000 or more than 70% now. They have a village-owned enterprise. So the awareness to create and establish village-owned enterprise is quite high. The highest decision of village-owned enterprise is on the village assembly. The strategic decision such as investment, cooperation with third-party, evaluation of management are discussed and approved in the village assembly. So their decision is not based on the number of shares. So in the limited liability partnership or PT, the principle is one share, one vote. And in the cooperative, the principle is one man, one vote. But the village-owned enterprise is combined. I think combine the two. They are not use the one shares, one vote, or one member, one vote, because in the village-owned enterprise, the ultimate decision is on the village assembly. So everybody with the ID card can, with ID card that proof that they are the citizen of the village, they can attend, they can ask questions, they can vote for any strategic decision. This is what is the make the village-owned enterprises unique. And the regulation now stated that 51%, I correct this, 51% ownership must belong to the village government. So the village-owned enterprise, they can have the two shareholders. One is the village government and the other is village communities, whether individually or in a groups. So this is also the only one type of organization that enable the village government, and this is the public sector, and the communities, this private sector, can have the same ownership. So the hybrid organization, so the village-owned enterprise has a hybrid characteristic. They have some public sector. The public sector is the decision that must be agreed by the communities or village representative. The same with the in the government. So the decision must be approved by the House of Representatives. The same principle also happen in the village-owned enterprise. But in the units, they can have a professional and business like operation. Okay, so this is one of things that makes the village-owned enterprise quite interesting. So in the government regulation, the village-owned enterprise have 4 organ. They have 4 components. One is the musyawarah desa as the ultimate decision maker. Second is the head of village, that this is ex officio or automatically become the advisor of the VOE. So any strategic, any important decision must come through and been approved by the head of village. And the oversight body, the as a community representative and the professional management. This is the director, secretary, and treasury, and also manager and employee. So this is the represent the actors that must work together to succeed the VOE. So as a social enterprise, the VOE has the inherent challenge. One is the VOE must confront the multiple goals because they have financial goals and they have social goals. So how can they achieve both uh, proportionally? So in the same time, VOE need to achieve the financial goals and also need to achieve the uh, social goals. Second is they have a multi stakeholders because they have the the government, the communities, and also the third parties. And they have also multiple source of income because they have the government budget. They have a budget from village fund. This is the state budget, and they also can do the business, so they can have the income from the uh, communities or the government or the market. So this is the structures that they. So the VOE become a holding. VOE become a holding, and they have several business units. The business unit, they can work independently. They can work uh, by, they can be operated by VOE, or they can collaborate with the groups or communities in the village. Let's say that one of village has the tourist destination and they've been managed by Pok Darwis, kelompok sadar wisata, and they can be a business unit of the VOE. They can manage the site, the destination, the tourist destination, but administratively, VOE or BUMDES will manage that. The other example is if the village has the farmers, the group of farmers, they can cultivate or grow the plants and they can harvest, and maybe they have a problems on the packaging or processing, the food processing, like rice mill. They need to have the rice mill units, and they can harvest, they can process the padi into rice, and they maybe they also have problem in the marketing. This is where VOE can set up a special business unit, collaborate with farmers. Farmers will responsible for production, and the VOE will responsible for marketing. The other example is like there's some small and medium enterprise. They become one groups, and fields on enterprise provide the online shop or physical shop, toko desa, and the products of the uh, small medium enterprise they can sell in there. And the third type is that VOE might work with the outside investors. So when they have land, they want to build like a park or the water boom, and there are a lot of money needed, and investor will finance all of the infrastructure, and the village owned enterprise can manage that. That is the possibilities. So in the accounting things, there's an issue to have a consensus because this is a new entity. So up until now, there is no special or specific accounting standard to cater the needs of the VOE. So as an accountant, we need to combine several standards so we can prepare the financial report for VOE. So the goals of the VOE is to have to solve this. I think at least one of this problem in the village, which is the economy, and this become proven. And in the pandemic and the post-pandemic, the village recover faster and stronger compared to the cities because they have the resiliency of the crisis. And I think we are quite thankful that Indonesia have the better preparation for this crisis, because we know that every countries have the problem of the increasing on the food price, and Indonesia hopefully can manage this because we have a lot of lands that we can use to cultivate food. So in the accounting, the challenge is uh, how to shifting the perspective, because the accounting is the process of identifying, measuring, communicating economic information to permit informed judgment and decision by user of the information. So in relation to the VOE, how can we present the information both for the internal and the external parties so they can have better judgment of the VOE, and they can have better decision. So let's say this is the another example of the social enterprise to Anyam. So they help the housewife in remote areas in Kupang to have the woven, and they give them very innovative and creative design, and they sold this to the high level fashion market. So I think this is quite interesting how to bring the local products into export or high fashion market using the creative design. This is the one of the example of the VOE. This is in Klaten, the Ponggok. Ponggok have water springs, and they use it for many things. And one day there's one person that think that this is might be a tourist destination. So at that time, at 2003, the ideas is so weird. Is so the villager hardly to believe that people will come to the village because it's quite remote. It's like 1.5 or 2 hours from Jogja, and there's just a narrow street in there at the time. But using the social media, I think starting from 2007, 2008, there are a lot of uh, people that access the social media. So they dive into this spring and they have a pictures like this and become viral. And then people from everywhere come to the village and they take the pictures. They need to they need to pay the entry tickets. I think it's like 30,000, and they need to rent some property, I think maybe like 70,000. Is I think one person might spend 100,000 rupiah, and since 1,000 every day come, this village might have the village owned enterprise might have revenue up to the 13 billion. 13 billion. So they have very huge profit from there. So they built very big and beautiful village office in there, and they built many facility. They give scholarship, one household, one bachelor, and so in the 2003, 40% of the village people living in there is categorized as a poor family, and in the next 12 years, like in the 2015, it becomes zero. So this has become really success story. Within 12 years, through VOE, they can reduce the poverty from 40% and up to 0%. And if you also go to Bali, you come to Pantai Pandawa. Pantai Pandawa is also another example tourist destination that managed by VOE, and they have pre-COVID, they can have like 36 billion revenues. So this is really huge. Can you imagine one tiny village with no more than 500 household that previously poor, then manage billions of rupiah. The other example is the Panggung Harjo in my top left. They manage the waste management, and before VOE come, there are a lot of issues related with the garbage. I think if you living in the Jogja, you notice that we have serious problem on the waste because we are depends on the TPA Piungan. So when TPA Piungan close, I think everybody will suffer for the waste problems. And before COVID, they can have like 7 billion revenue by multiple business they manage, but the waste management actually create a lot of opportunities and money. So one of the innovation from Panggung Harjo Village is they design tools, the machine to process the use cooking oil, the cooking oil, the waste of the cooking oil to be biofuel, and they can sell this with a really high price. Another example is the Karangreje. This is in the Gunung Kidul Regency. This is a very poor village with there is no water, and the village owned enterprise drill the underground waters. They need to drill 150 meters, and they can have right now 4,000 households that rely on their services. Langgeran, this is also another poor village, but since their creativity and consistency, they now become the best community-based tourism in the World Tourism Organization. This is in the East Java, in the Gedong Arum. Gedong Arum in one of the regency in the East Java. They they can have like 100 hectares irrigation, use the water pump, so they can have increase the welfare of the village, and they also can have very high profit from there. I think they can have like 4 billion or 5 billion revenues, so they can build many infrastructure in that. This is in Telingo, and this is the last they built a toko desa, the village market, and the lastly is the Kampung Mataraman. So we with the VOE built this empty land, unused land, to be one of the popular cultural tourism destination right now. So before COVID, there are 100,000 people that visit this place. So the VOE can have the revenue of 6 billion rupiah. And during COVID, we still can see many innovation from the VOE. This is in Guasari, in the south of our campus. So they're trying to revitalize the land. So they're trying to cultivate land for food security program. This is another example of our collaboration with the VOE in Kemudu in Klaten, with the funding from the Danone. So Danone give money to build a new business, and so we come up to build a toko desa with online and offline, and how to market the product of the local SME. This is in Stigi in Gresik, East Java. So they have this unused mine, the local mines in there, and so they like revitalize this land, so they become very beautiful park. They need like 2 billions to 7 billion to build this, and they manage to finance this through crowdfunding. So they ask each household to saving and 8,000 per day. So every year, every month they have like 100,000 and 200,000, and within 1 year, every household have 2 million rupiah, and they have 1,000 household, so they can have like 2 billion. So they convert the saving into investment to the VOE, and they use the money to build the infrastructures. So this is again another example how a poor village, with the creativity, with the spirit of gotong royong, can work together to achieve their dreams. This is another example in the VOE. So I have more than 100 success story in the village through the VOE. So what we can learn from the examples of the successful VOE? So there's a need to build the ecosystem. The ecosystem is how you link the producers and consumers and support their transaction using the financial technology and the logistic. So the platform is not only application, it's not only software, but also in the physical world. The VOE play as a platform to facilitate the producers and consumers to meet each other. And The VOE also might open to the government, industry, campus, and banks to work together to achieve more and more possibilities. This is the design of the future's VOE. So when each of VOE can manage their business in the local level, so they will work together in the kecamatan level to be the BUMDES bersama, the joint VOE, and the VOE and joint VOE will become a holding in the regency level and become the holding in the province level and so in the national level. So you can imagine that thousands of villages can work together. They can sell their products to each other. They will become huge economic engine in the future. So in the issues of the multiple source of income, so the village has the three source of income. So first, they have the village revenue, the revenue that they can make from their own, the allocated village fund or alokasi dana desa. This is from the portion of the tax of the local tax that being the part of the rights of the village, and the village fund from the money that from state budget or from central government. So they need to prepare the village revenue and expenditure budget. They need to combine the three sources of revenue, and they need to allocate this into four function: for the government function, for the empowerment function, for the social function, and for the operational function. So one of the function of the empowerment is they should establish the village-owned enterprise. So they can have the financing or investment to the village-owned enterprise. So this is the flow of money from the village government to the village-owned enterprise. So the village government and village-owned enterprise is different entity, but they can work together to achieve. This is the total accumulation of the village budget in 2017 and 2018. As you can see, there is an increasing trend. There is a 100 billion spent on the village. So this is really huge money. And for the BUMDES, there is a total more than 11 trillion, I'm sorry, 11 trillion rupiah that transfer from the village government to the village owned enterprise. So I think to sum up my presentation, the accounting students or the summer school, I think hopefully can think of this in terms of the sociopreneurship. Maybe you can learn a lot more on the sociopreneurship, because I think this will become growing trends, the emerging trends in the futures, and the use of design thinking. How you can make a problem solving, the sustainable problem solving to design thinking, and the digital transformation and managerial and leadership skills. So I think this is my presentation. I hope there's a discussion or maybe questions from the audience. So I will give the opportunity to the students to sharing their opinion or questions. I will send this session to the moderators. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the material. So we can move to the next session, is a Q&A session. So do you have any further question, guys, about this material? If you have a question, maybe you can raise your hand and unmute your audio. Okay, sir. Maybe they all already already understand about the material that you gave to us.
Yes.
So we can move to the next session, sir.
Yes.
So thank you for Mr. Rudy Suryanto, S.A.M.Acc, for the attractive material. Hopefully, it can help the audience to have a better understanding about public sector organization, BUMDES, which already delivered by Mr. Rudy. Now we're turning to the last agenda, which is closing. As the master of ceremony, I do apologize for any mistakes during this event. Finally, I would like to say thank you. Before leaving this event, please kindly everyone turning on your camera because we want to take a picture. So you guys can turn on your camera. Okay, maybe I can take in 1, 2, 3. The second slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you for everyone for joining this event and see you on the next event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Pak.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, see you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.